In an unprecedented move that has sent shockwaves through political circles, President Trump made a bold statement on Canadian Election Day, suggesting that Canada should become the 51st state of the United States or face economic consequences. This move, seen by many as a veiled threat, underscores Trump's desperation regarding Canada, raising questions about who is more dependent on whom. In his post, Trump urged Canadians to elect a leader who would agree to join the U.S., promising economic prosperity, a fourfold increase in industry, the elimination of tariffs, and free military support, but at the cost of Canada's sovereignty. The author of the post presents the current border between Canada and the U.S. as a historical accident, implying that the natural and logical outcome would be the unification of the two countries into a single state. In his vision, America is no longer willing to bear the burden of financially supporting Canada alone, which sounds like a veiled threat of economic sanctions if the idea of unification is resisted. Furthermore, the author addresses the people of Canada, urging them to elect a leader with the will and vision to cut taxes in half. He promises an unprecedented increase in military power at no cost to Canada. The author paints a picture of unprecedented prosperity for Canadian industries, automotive, metallurgy, woodworking, energy, and others, which he believes will quadruple due to the absence of tariffs and taxes if Canada joins the U.S. as the 51st state. In conclusion, the author returns to the theme of the artificiality of the border, which he believes was drawn many years ago. He suggests imagining how wonderful a united country would be, with the free movement of people and goods, where all the advantages would be preserved and the disadvantages eliminated. According to the author, this is the natural course of history. The United States is no longer able to bear the burden of multi-billion-dollar subsidies that have been directed to Canada in the past. Such financial support lacks logic unless Ottawa is considered part of American territory. It is worth noting that this is not the first time the head of the White House has resorted to such rhetoric towards his northern neighbor. After his re-election in December 2024, President Trump has regularly promoted the idea of Canada joining the United States as the 51st state. This initiative has become a recurring theme in his speeches and social media posts, causing widespread resonance both domestically and abroad. For example, in December 2024, during a summit with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Trump jokingly suggested that if trade disagreements escalated, Canada should consider joining the U.S. He even ironically addressed Trudeau as Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada, while emphasizing the importance of continuing negotiations on trade and tariffs. On December 18th of the same year, Trump used the Truth Social platform to publicly declare his support for the idea of Canadian statehood. He expressed confidence that a significant number of Canadians support this move, citing potential benefits such as a reduction in the tax burden and an increase in the level of security. Donald Trump's political horizons seem to know no bounds. He even suggested that legendary hockey player Wayne Gretzky could easily hold the highest state positions, whether it be the Prime Minister's chair or the governor's office. In early January, speaking to the press at his Mar-a-Lago residence, Trump reaffirmed his intention to use economic leverage to push Canada to unite with the United States. In his opinion, such an alliance would not only strengthen the security of both countries, but also significantly reduce border security costs. In his Truth Social account, Trump posted an image of the American flag covering a map of both countries, accompanied by a caption alluding to the Canadian national anthem. In an interview with Fox News ahead of the Super Bowl, when asked about the seriousness of his intentions to annex Canada, Trump replied affirmatively, stating, "Yes, I'm serious about Canada becoming the 51st state." Continuing his strategy, on February 1st, Trump imposed 25% tariffs on Canadian goods, citing the need to combat illegal border crossings and fentanyl smuggling. He made it clear that these tariffs could be lifted if Canada agreed to join the U.S. as a new state. On February 13th, a statement from the Oval Office shook the political world. President Trump announced the introduction of reciprocal tariffs on Canadian imports. But that was not all. The White House chief has once again voiced an idea that stirs the minds of supporters and opponents alike: the integration of the northern neighbor into the United States as the 51st state. Addressing the Canadian Prime Minister, Trump once again used the ironic nickname Governor, hinting that joining the United States would bring countless benefits to Canadians, primarily a reduction in the tax burden. Later, in his social media posts, the president expanded on this idea, pointing to an imbalance in national security funding. According to him, Canada largely relies on the military power of the United States without making a proportionate contribution to the common defense. We subsidize Canada for over $200 billion a year. Why? Trump questioned, emphasizing that such a situation cannot continue indefinitely. He saw the solution in Canada joining the United States, which, in his opinion, would automatically remove all tariff barriers and open the way to prosperity. Lower taxes, strengthened security, the disappearance of problems on the northern border. These are just some of the advantages that, according to Trump, await Canadians in the event of unification. The greatest and most powerful nation in the world will become bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. And Canada will be a big part of it, the president summarized, painting a picture of a bright future in which the two countries merge into one, strengthening the power and greatness of America. Dreams of erasing the artificial borders that divide countries are taking on a new life in the rhetoric of politicians. In their vision, the world will see the birth of the safest and most beautiful power on the planet. The national anthem, a symbol of pride and unity, will sound with renewed vigor, embodying the greatness and power of the new state within the most outstanding nation that has ever existed on Earth. Trump's recent statements regarding Canada's energy sector have once again captured public attention. Having previously rejected Canadian oil imports in the name of U.S. energy independence, the politician is now insisting on the restoration of a large-scale pipeline connecting Canadian oil fields to American refineries. This unexpected twist underscores the recognition of America's undeniable energy dependence on the resources of its northern neighbor. The change of position, from categorically denying the U.S. need for Canadian oil to actively promoting the revival of the Keystone XL project, has reignited old debates. At a recent press conference, Trump criticized the Biden administration for canceling the project, emphasizing the contrast between their energy strategies. Donald Trump has reiterated his commitment to U.S. energy independence, urging the Keystone XL pipeline builders to return to the country and resume work that was suspended under the Biden administration. According to Trump, the country has everything it needs to prosper, and he believes that the company that was building Keystone XL should return to America and complete the project. Trump noted that the company was treated unfairly under the Biden administration, but assured that under his administration, things would be different, approvals would be fast, and work would start almost immediately. He also suggested the possibility of bringing in another company if necessary, emphasizing that the Keystone XL pipeline must be completed. To fully assess Trump's statements, it is important to consider Canada's energy potential. This country is a major player in the global energy market, effectively using its rich natural resources to meet domestic needs and serve international markets. In 2023, the Canadian energy industry demonstrated its importance, providing approximately 10.3% of the country's nominal GDP. This sector not only created jobs for more than 285,000 people, but also indirectly supported the employment of another 411,000 Canadians. Energy exports reached an impressive $199.1 billion, with 89% of this volume accounted for by trade with the United States, which further confirms the close economic and energy ties between the two countries. Canada ranks fourth in the world in terms of oil production, producing 4.9 million barrels per day in 2023, mainly from the oil sands of Alberta. Crude oil exports reached a record high of 4 million barrels per day, which is 81% of the country's total production and brings in $124 billion in export revenue. The completion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, TMX, expansion with an additional capacity of 590,000 barrels per day opens up new opportunities for access to Pacific markets. Nevertheless, forecasts indicate that even this increased capacity may be exhausted in just 5 years, given the continued growth in production. This highlights the continued pressure on infrastructure, necessitating further development and expansion of energy capacity to sustain Canada's export potential. Natural gas holds a strategically important position in Canada's energy system. In 2023, production volumes of this resource reached an impressive 17.9 billion cubic feet per day, a 3.6% increase compared to the previous year. The primary consumer of Canadian gas remains the United States, where it plays an indispensable role in heating homes, supporting industrial operations, and generating electricity. Continuous exports underscore Canada's significance in the context of energy stability across the North American continent. In the electricity sector, Canada produced 615.3 million megawatt-hours in 2023. This figure represents a slight decrease of 3.9% compared to 2022, primarily due to reduced rainfall, which negatively impacted hydroelectric power generation. Despite this, hydropower remains the leading source in the energy production structure, providing 58% of the total volume. Nuclear energy follows with a 13.7% share, while wind and solar power plants collectively contribute 7.2% to the country's energy balance. However, electricity exports to the United States experienced a notable decline, decreasing by 24.4% to reach 49.4 million megawatt-hours. This decrease reflects growing concerns about environmental issues, which are increasingly influencing power plant operations. Amidst these challenges, the Canadian energy sector demonstrates robust growth in the renewable energy sector. By 2024, the country had accumulated a substantial capacity portfolio exceeding 24 gigawatts, combining wind, solar, and advanced energy storage systems. An impressive 18 gigawatts are attributed to wind farms, while solar installations of utility scale provide over 4 gigawatts. These large-scale investments demonstrate Canada's strategic course towards diversifying its energy sector and gradually transitioning to cleaner sources, even as traditional fossil fuels continue to play a key role in the country's economy. The exchange of crude oil between Canada and the U.S. sees significant volumes and a sustained reliance on Canadian heavy oil, particularly Western Canadian Select, WCS. In 2023, crude oil imports from Canada to the U.S. averaged about 4.0 million barrels per day, accounting for approximately 60% of total U.S. crude oil imports. WCS heavy oil, extracted from the Canadian province of Alberta, serves as a benchmark for evaluating similar grades. Due to its higher density and sulfur content, it traditionally trades at a discount compared to lighter grades such as WTI. In 2023, this price differential slightly widened, averaging $18.65 per barrel, exceeding the $18.22 per barrel recorded in 2022. The price difference between WCS and WTI is influenced by several factors, including transportation costs, refining characteristics, and seasonal demand fluctuations. Notably, many refineries in the U.S., especially in the Midwest region, PADD 2, are specifically adapted to process heavy Canadian crude. An example is the BP Whiting Refinery in Indiana, one of the largest in the region, which has invested significantly in equipment to handle WCS. This highlights the strategic importance of Canadian heavy oil for ensuring the stable operation of American refineries. The transportation of Canadian oil to U.S. markets is largely facilitated by the Enbridge pipeline system, which includes the Canadian Mainline and U.S. Lakehead system. This infrastructure plays a crucial role in the logistical supply chain of energy resources between the two countries. This intricate network of pipelines plays a key role in transporting oil from Alberta's rich deposits to refineries located throughout the Midwest and beyond. Imports of natural gas further strengthen the energy ties between the two countries. An extensive network of pipelines connects Canadian production centers directly to American markets, ensuring reliable and cost-effective supplies. In 2023, the United States imported approximately 7.88 billion cubic feet of natural gas per day from Canada, underscoring Canada's significant role as the primary foreign supplier of natural gas to the U.S. These supplies are critical for home heating, industrial processes, and electricity generation in the U.S., especially during periods of peak winter demand. Canada's extensive network of natural gas pipelines, spanning over 117,000 kilometers, plays a pivotal role in transporting natural gas, both domestically and to export markets. Major arteries such as TC Energy's NGTL system and the Enbridge mainlines serve as vital conduits, channeling gas from production areas to consumers on both sides of the border. These pipeline systems ensure the seamless and efficient delivery of natural gas, underscoring the close energy interdependence between Canada and the United States. Even with the rise of domestic gas production in the U.S., Canadian imports remain critical to maintaining affordable and stable energy prices, particularly during periods of peak demand. Through integrated pipeline infrastructure and long-standing energy partnerships, both countries jointly ensure energy security and economic stability across the North American continent. Symbolic of these intricate interconnections is the Keystone XL pipeline, which for over a decade has been at the epicenter of fierce debates encompassing environmental, political, and economic dimensions. In 2008, TC Energy, formerly known as TransCanada, unveiled a proposal intended to link the oil sands of Alberta, Canada, with refineries in the United States. The idea, seemingly promising economic prosperity and enhanced energy independence, simultaneously ignited a storm of opposition driven by concerns about environmental consequences and potential regulatory transgressions. Thus began one of the most contentious infrastructure project debates in modern history. To grasp the essence of the conflict, one must delve into the background of the Keystone pipeline system, which commenced operations in 2010. This initial phase of the pipeline served to transport crude oil from the Western Canadian Sedimentary Basin of Alberta to various destinations in the United States, including refineries in Illinois and Texas, as well as storage facilities in Oklahoma. Building upon this foundation, TC Energy proposed an expansion known as Keystone XL, an ambitious 1,900-kilometer pipeline project designed to create a more direct and efficient route. It was projected to augment capacity by 830,000 barrels per day, connecting Hardisty, Alberta, to Steel City, Nebraska. The stated objective of the project was to optimize logistics and increase the supply of crude oil to refining facilities in the Gulf Coast region. Despite the compelling economic arguments in favor of Keystone XL, environmental and social considerations soon emerged as formidable obstacles. The extraction of oil from the oil sands of Alberta, Canada, results in significantly higher greenhouse gas emissions, estimated to be up to 81% greater, compared to conventional crude oil production. This fact amplified concerns about climate change, especially amid growing public awareness of environmental issues. The proposed route of the pipeline traversed the fragile Sandhills region of Nebraska and the Ogallala Aquifer, a critical source of fresh water for millions of people. Opponents of the project argued that a spill could cause irreparable damage to water supplies and agricultural lands, threatening ecosystems and livelihoods. In addition to these controversies, indigenous communities voiced strong opposition, asserting that the project jeopardized sacred sites, violated treaty rights, and encroached upon ancestral lands. Legal challenges initiated by tribes such as the Rosebud Sioux and the Fort Belknap Indian community became potent levers, slowing the progress of construction and drawing heightened public attention to the project's fate. As the wave of public opposition and legal hurdles mounted, the political landscape surrounding Keystone XL underwent dramatic shifts, reflecting changes in administration at the highest levels of the U.S. government. In 2015, President Barack Obama rejected the project, citing its incompatibility with national efforts to curb climate change. However, this verdict was swiftly overturned with the ascendance of President Donald Trump in 2017. He revived the project through executive action, seeking to expedite its approval process, framing it as a catalyst for job creation and enhanced American energy independence. But fortune turned against Keystone XL once again in 2021 when President Joe Biden, declaring the fight against climate change a priority, revoked the project's permit on his first day in office. This move reflected a global environmental strategy and marked the beginning of the end for the Keystone XL project. Faced with tightening regulations and waning political support, TC Energy officially announced the cancellation of the project and the cessation of all construction activities in June 2021. However, the story of Keystone XL did not end with its cancellation. In early 2025, during his second presidential term, Donald Trump attempted to revive interest in the project by rescinding President Biden's decision to revoke permits for the pipeline's construction. Despite this, TC Energy did not express any intention to resume the project, and significant sections of the planned pipeline remained unfinished. Environmental organizations and indigenous communities continue to protest, emphasizing the ongoing risks the project poses to ecosystems and indigenous rights. Thus, the Keystone XL pipeline remains a significant symbol of the ongoing struggle between economic development, environmental protection, and indigenous sovereignty in North America. Donald Trump's call to revive the Keystone XL pipeline project has once again raised the issue of North American energy security. Behind this call lies a broader concern about the stability of the economy and the unpredictability of the global oil market. Supporters of the project believe that its resumption would stimulate job creation and strengthen the region's energy independence. However, restarting Keystone XL will face significant obstacles. Environmentalists warn of environmental risks, but there are other factors as well. New regulatory requirements, likely lawsuits from environmental organizations and indigenous groups, and the need to find a new operator for the project after TC Energy abandoned it. In the future, energy cooperation between the United States and Canada must strike a balance between economic benefits and environmental requirements, whether through the revival of old infrastructure or through the establishment of new partnerships in the field of green energy. Canada is resolutely embarking on a course to strengthen its energy independence, investing heavily in the development of oil and gas pipeline infrastructure. This strategic maneuver is designed to diversify export destinations and reduce dependence on the dominant United States market. The ambitious goal is to ensure the country's energy sector is sustainable and competitive in a volatile global market. At the forefront of this initiative is the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline, or TMX, a project implemented under the aegis of the government. The completion of this large-scale undertaking marks a significant milestone. The pipeline's capacity has almost tripled, from 300,000 to 890,000 barrels per day. This opens up new horizons for Canada, allowing it not only to increase oil supplies to the west coast of the United States, but also to target promising Asian markets with a growing need for energy resources. The increase in export capacity is expected to have a positive impact on the country's economy. In particular, it will reduce the price gap between Canadian Western Canadian Select and American West Texas Intermediate crude, allowing Canadian producers to increase their profits and strengthen the country's position as a key player on the global energy stage. The completion of the TMX project does not put an end to Canada's aspirations to develop pipeline infrastructure. Canada continues to consider new projects designed to expand the geography of export routes. However, this path is fraught with obstacles. The complexities of regulatory oversight, environmental issues, and persistent political resistance make it difficult to implement new pipeline initiatives. These challenges are compounded by growing public attention to the issue of climate change, creating conditions in which obtaining permits for large infrastructure projects becomes an increasingly complex task. The consequences of the evolution of Canada's energy strategy are felt beyond its borders, especially in the United States. The United States is heavily dependent on Canadian oil, importing about 60% of its required crude oil from Canada. Heavy oil from Canada is particularly in demand by American refineries, especially those located in the Midwest and Gulf Coast regions, which were originally designed to process heavier grades of oil. Any disruption to Canadian oil supplies abroad could have serious consequences for American refining operations, potentially triggering higher fuel prices for consumers in the United States and even leading to shortages. In recent years, the situation has become complicated due to the periodic threat of U.S. tariffs on Canadian oil imports, which has forced Canada to actively seek alternative markets. This turn of events could significantly limit the access of American refiners to the usual volumes of inexpensive heavy oil. In this situation, enterprises will either have to put up with increased costs or invest heavily in upgrading equipment to process other grades of oil, which is a very costly and complex process. Thus, the long-standing energy ties between Canada and the United States are on the verge of fundamental change. Canada's aspirations to diversify export destinations in the energy sector are likely to have a profound impact on the North American energy landscape. The energy map of the world is undergoing noticeable changes. Despite the fact that the United States retains its status as a key consumer of Canadian oil, Canada's desire to diversify export routes, in particular to Asian countries, could significantly weaken the energy interdependence of the two countries. This turn of events could prompt the United States to seek alternative suppliers of crude oil, turning its eyes to Mexico, Venezuela, or even emerging African producers. At the same time, American refineries may face the need to innovate and adapt to a more diverse supply structure. Canada's investment in expanding and modernizing the pipeline network should be seen as a conscious and strategically sound step aimed at ensuring economic stability in a volatile global energy market. These changes will undoubtedly pose new challenges for the U.S. refining industry, but they also open up opportunities for both countries to rethink and strengthen their energy strategies, which will allow them to adapt to the new realities and maximize the benefits of the changing landscape of world energy. In today's ever-changing world, organizations strive to strengthen their resilience and adapt to new conditions. The global landscape dictates the need for flexible systems that can withstand any challenge. What are the consequences of these transformations? Viewers are invited to share their thoughts and opinions in the comments to explore the depth of these changes together. This concludes the issue. Sincere gratitude is expressed to everyone who joined the viewing. If the information presented was useful or inspiring, viewers are encouraged to support the channel with a like and subscription to stay up to date with new materials and be part of the community. The support of each viewer is of great importance. In conclusion, it is proposed to familiarize yourself with other videos on the channel to continue exploring interesting topics.